We're going to be looking at interpolation and extrapolation, but this time instead of from a graph, we're going to be doing it from a table and equation. So you can see I've got the table here, which is we're going to fill out, and we've got the equation that is over here. So if water flow speed equals negative 0.04 times depth of water plus 0.44, or S equals 0.44 minus 0.04 times D, where all the values in the analysis were from depths of water between 0.22 meters and 1.75 meters, or 0.22 less than or equal to D less than or equal to 1.75, use the equation to complete the graph. Okay, so it's a lot of information, but the key bits is this. S is equal to 0.44 minus 0.04 times D. Alrighty, that's just a simple equation. And the other important information we were given is that for it to be considered interpolation, it had to be between 0.22 less than or equal to D less than or equal to 1.75. So if D is between, the depth is between 0.22 and 1.75, that's going to be interpolation. And if the D value ends up being anything outside of that range, then it's got to be extrapolation, okay? So that's basically all we're going to be doing. So for the first one here, to fill in the first row, the depth is 1. 1, if D equals 1, then that's within this range, right? It's in between the numbers 0.22 and 1.75. Therefore, we know this is going to be interpolation. To work out the speed, we're just going to sub in D equals 1 into the equation, and we get S equals 0.44 minus 0.04 times 1, which is 0.40. And that is the speed in meters per second. The next one is actually been given us to the other way around. So it tells us the speed. Now remember, even though the speed is in between 0.22 and 1.75, the speed has nothing to do with whether we're interpolating or extrapolating. It has to be to do with the depth. So we need to find the depth first. So let's take our equation. S equals 0.44 minus 0.04 times D. And this time we're going to sub in S equals 0.38, because we know the speed, we don't know what the depth is. So we get 0.38 equals 0.44 minus 0.04 times D. We want to isolate D by itself, so we're going to do a little bit of algebra. So step 1, take 0.44 from both sides. That's going to cancel with 0.44 over there. On the left-hand side, we're left with negative 0.06. On the right-hand side, we've got negative 0.04 times D. Opposite of times is divide, so we're going to divide both sides by negative 0.04. And that's going to give us, I think it's about 1.5. I'm just going to double check that. It is indeed. So that depth, 1.5, goes up in the table, 1.5. And 1.5 is once again within this range here. So once again, we're dealing with interpolation. So that's all finished up. Last question is C. And we can see immediately that this is 5. Now, as you can see, 5 is not within that range. It's actually bigger than that, so it's going to be extrapolation. And now we just need to actually work out the value of it. So let's sub in D equals 5 into the equation. We get S is equal to 0.44 minus 0.04 times 5, which is equal to 0.24, and that goes up into the table. Alrighty. So the first two are example of interpolation, and the last example was of extrapolation. And just remember that whether it's interpolation or extrapolation is only ever to do with the explanatory variable. It has nothing to do with the response variable. Alrighty. That's all we're doing today. See you in the next one. Goodbye.